This is Michael Smith from the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast. Nursing school is a struggle for many. Everyone struggles at one point or another, even that seemingly bulletproof student you're thinking about right now. Some people will struggle with tests, some will struggle with clinicals or lab or sims, and some of those students who struggle with none of those things will struggle within the profession. Nursing school is a struggle for some from day one until the day you graduate. It was for me. It might be for you too. But trust me, if I can make it, you can. Just keep working hard. Be truthful to yourself. Be joyful in the hard stuff. On the other end of school is a profession that is amazingly hard. I'm not going to lie to you, especially in the first year. And the rewards, though amazing, are sometimes heartbreaking too. You will have to wade through a lot of muck and mud to get to these amazing little jewels of experiences that make coming to work worth it. Nursing and nursing school isn't just about learning content, about learning the tasks that you have to do. It's about learning to grow through adversity, coming out the other end stronger. You will struggle outside of school too, but I promise you when you make it, it's worth it. So I'll see you on the other end of this crazy nursing school journey. Welcome to the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast, Season 4, Episode 16. I am your good and faithful host, Michael Smith. Today, we are going to be talking about being a parent and having your kids at home while in school with upcoming Instagram star, Ratchet Mom RN. That's Ratchet Mom _RN. Thanks for joining me. Let's jump right in. All right, well, welcome. So, Ratchet Mom RN. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Tell me about your Instagram page and tell me about your home life, work life, and give me the situational base from where you're working, basically.
Sure. So I am a single mom and I'm a nurse, and my home life is pretty hectic. I have 4 kids. I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and 2 elementary age kids. And I do most of the work. They're with me all week. And they see their dad on the weekends. And I'm basically just really frustrated with the schools being closed. So I started an Instagram page that's like super salty. And it hates on teachers a lot, which I kind of feel bad about, but we're like super stressed out over here. My kids are sick of being home. They've been home basically for 6 months because there was no summer camps or anything, this summer either. So it's been hard, on family life, I think, for a lot of people.
So where does it, because I don't think that you're alone in your frustration. Mm-hmm. You've got, and I think a lot of them probably share a lot of the sentiments with you because they got into teaching in order to be around kids and help them and all that kind of stuff. But so, don't tell me where you're from, because what state you're from doesn't really matter in this instance. But in your state, they're doing all distance learning, or because it's some of it's regional, but you're doing your region is doing a lot of or is 100% distance learning.
Yeah, so in my region, it's 100% distance learning for all the public schools. None of the public schools in my area are even doing a hybrid right now. And I guess I'm really frustrated with it because as a healthcare worker, I have pretty much firsthand knowledge that our hospital system is not overwhelmed right now. And the main hospital system in this area, I don't even think there are any COVID patients in the ICU right now. And we know from like CDC data that like kids are do pretty well with COVID, and that's like 6% of the cases and 0.1% of the fatalities. So it seems like unreasonable basically to still have the schools shut down in March. I was for it and I understood it because we didn't want to overwhelm the hospital system. But
Well, and we didn't know what we were dealing with, back in January and March.
yeah, we didn't exactly. We didn't know what we were dealing with. I mean, we have 6 months of data now. So I feel like the kids are suffering not being in school.
I love the fact that I can hear your kids in the background. It's like perfect backdrop. It's like perfect backdrop sound.
Yes, they're all home. I'm locked in my bedroom right now, and some of them are on Zoom, and some of them are working, quote unquote, independently, probably just eating ice cream, not actually doing their work.
So let's try to get our arms around the problem first, because in order to find a solution, we have to try to define the problem. We have to try to figure out what we're dealing with. So what's the problem that you're facing? I mean, we've kind of defined it a little bit, that you have 4 kids all at home at different ages, and they all have different needs, and you're supposed to be like a full-time working mom and a full-time teacher to 4 different kids with, again, very differing needs. So help me define the subject.
Sure. So I think a lot of people, including myself, the biggest problem is childcare. I mean, we really rely on the school system to educate and basically take care of our kids for like 8 hours a day while we work.
And that's not one of the points of the school, but it is one of those things that we've kind of come to rely on, that allows people to go out there and be, productive economic members of their household, of their community, and of the country, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what it's turned into, and I feel like a big problem with the school shutting down and keeping the kids at home is you need a 2-parent household and somebody who's basically a stay-at-home parent to make sure that the kids are staying on top of their schoolwork, especially if you have a lot of kids like me.
Well, but even if you have 2 parents in the household, like, and if both of them are working, like if you're a nurse, for example, I'm an overnight nurse. I've got to sleep during the day, and I can't keep my kids up all night on days that I have off to teach them how to, their reading skills and stuff like that. So it has to fall on one person anyway.
Yeah.
And even if you do have 2 parents in the household, it's a full-time job. I mean, like, everybody's got 3 full-time jobs right now, and that's a lot to overcome.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, even in most 2-parent households, both parents are working. So it seems like just an impossible task, essentially.
Yeah, it's hard to get your arms around, isn't it?
Yeah. So and yeah, the other problem is if you have multiple kids in different grades with different needs, it's impossible. I mean, it's really impossible. It's just impossible. That's like the conclusion I've come to. I've taught, like, I think we were talking about this, like I sort of have just encouraged my older kids to be more independent and reach out to their teachers for help as much as possible, because I just can't be right there. I'm not a helicopter parent to begin with. So this has been, like, this is hard for me. Like, you're all at home asking me for help, and I mean, the way that the kids do math nowadays is so different from what I learned. And so there are reasons why it's hard for parents to help their kids with homework and during a regular school year. And now they're at home the whole day. And it feels a bit invasive too. Like, they're all on Zoom. And it's like I have my kids' teachers and classmates in my house kind of all day.
What's because Zoom being, kind of the newest technology for this kind of stuff, it seems like that would be a difficult thing if you have, again, more than one kid, and maybe the only computer that you have in your house is the one that you're on.
Right.
Maybe you have to. Maybe you have to if you have older kids. But they need to be on it. Their work is going to be a lot more, writing and a lot more process orientation, where maybe the younger kids don't have to be on the computer all the time.
Right.
But if you have 4 kids, say, like you do, how do you manage the Zoom schedule when you have limited computer times? Like, is that a problem that you've kind of run into?
So it was a really big problem in the spring when we first shut down. The school gave each family 1 computer, and most modern families they have like 1 or 2 kids. Like, I have 4 kids. Our family is a little larger than most families.
On average, yeah.
On average, yeah. So basically, my kids really didn't have enough time to get their work done, and they finished the school year with a lot of assignments unfinished. And it was it was really stressful. And then this year the district made sure each kid had their own laptop. But I mean, not everyone is in a district where each kid is going to be provided a laptop. So in that instance, I think you would have to just talk to your school and say, look, like, we can't actually do this your way. So can you give us a self-paced option? My sister actually did that, not because of computer issues, but because her kids were having such a hard time just sitting in front of the computers. And luckily she's able to be home with them, and said, look, just give us a self-paced option. We're not sitting in front of Zoom all day. But again, she's lucky to be at home with her kids. So
right.
We can't go on like this. Like, I hope the school districts realize, like, I feel like they're essentially failing kids and families.
What's like, I mean, the impact on kids, not just from an academic standpoint, and even though that's the focus of kind of what I want to talk about, or a lot of what I want to talk about is the academic drawbacks. But what are you seeing in your kids? What are some of the frustrations that your kids have talked about when it comes to being online all the time, not seeing their friends, that kind of stuff?
Sure. So they're definitely frustrated not seeing their friends. And then, like, a big difference, obviously, between online is you're at home. You're not in a physical building with actual adults around pointing you in the right direction. So they're just given a schedule, and they're told to follow it, and you have to know what time to get on which Zoom class. And obviously, in school you have a schedule, you have to follow it, but you have people around you right there physically, and you can say, hey, where is this class, and can you help me figure this out? And it's instant. Where, like, the first day of school, my daughter was in tears, my oldest, my high schooler, because the website that her schedule was on was down, and she had no idea. And so there's another huge problem. It's like there's all these technical difficulties too, and I feel like sometimes I'm listening in on these Zoom classes, and I can hear the teachers like, oh, I can't, it's not working, I can't get to this website to show you this thing. Okay, we'll just finish up tomorrow. There's all these technical difficulties too, which I'm sure you run into in school as well, because we're always relying on computers, but it's amplified right now. And it's getting in the way of learning.
There's no other option, whereas a parent can or a teacher can say, okay, well, this link isn't working. Well, let me show you, because I'm here in person, I can show you, this things and I don't have the visual aid, but that's okay. I know the subject well enough where I can teach it to you or help you get out what you need to. And they don't have that option right now. So it's kind of another big problem that you just can't get your arms around.
Yes.
Okay, so let's take a quick break right about here. We're at about 15 minutes total. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about what kinds of things from the school or from the state that you live in that are kind of encroaching, adding their own little piece of the pie to this problem pie, and we'll see if we can discuss it and try to get our arms around it. Okay.
Patience. What is that? Who even has time for that? Pi is P-I-E. Patience in everything. It's a simple yet difficult, yet powerful thing to learn. Think about the last time you were impatient. What came of it? How patient am I with others? How patient am I with myself? How patient and kind am I with the trials and unexpected turns in life? Am I patient and fully aware of the blessings of each day? I've been given a gift, be it fruit or life. It's up to me to choose how to use it. This is a book of short essays on life through something as simple as pie. Here's Coletta reading Piology 101.
Piology 101, the synchronicity of pie in life. How awesome to ponder how our Creator has put our individual ingredients so carefully together. Yet we get to choose our finishing touches and the temperature settings of the day. Sometimes we're hot, sometimes we're not. Every day is spent forming our own creation of self. Some days we also form a pie. Our ingredients of the day can be mixed up, nutty and complicated, or just sweetly simple. Fruits grown out of even the best soil and conditions may become bruised, but even imperfect fruit can become a pie to savor. Life, as imperfect as it may be, has a multitude of savory and sweet bites in each new day. Pie in life, filled to the brim with the fillings of our choice, oozing and bubbling over, and just so beautifully messy. Pie in life, any pie or day can end in failure and be perfected on the next. Pie in life, presented in pieces and are just what is left over, or sometimes well presented, well-rounded as a whole. Pie in life are made up of a beautiful variety of spices and different tastes. Pie in life, overworking can make it too tough. Pie in life, tender care will always produce a perfect foundation. Pie in life, dig in while it's fresh. Share that creation.
Get your copy of The Pie Letters by Coletta Hewitt in softcover or ebook from thepieletters.com. That's thepieletters.com, and buy your copy in softcover or ebook from thepieletters.com, or you can go to Amazon. Love you all. God bless.
You're listening to the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast.
All right, welcome back. So let's talk about what are the kinds of things from the school or from the state that you live in. And you don't have to tell me where you live, but tell me about the things that are making this process difficult. Just so we understand kind of the full spectrum of things that the full spectrum of the challenges that we're facing.
Sure. So one of the things I've run across is that even though we're fully online, I still have been having to go to the school to pick up supplies. And with 4 kids, it's like multiple trips. And we have to walk into the school. We had to get computers. Then we had to go another time to get books. And I'm like, why don't we just not do this? And they could just come to school. No. So that's been hard, and they make out a schedule, and they tell you what time to come based on your last name. And I'm like, do you realize, like, people are going to work? We don't even have a stay-at-home order anymore where we are. Like, people, even with office jobs, have been going into the office. Obviously, people who work in healthcare, like, we all have our own schedules. I feel like the demands from the school, just as far as like picking up supplies, and then the constant emails from teachers saying like your kid wasn't at a Zoom class, or they didn't do this assignment, or this constant, you need to print this out. I don't own a printer, and I'm not going to Staples to like print all these things.
Actually, we've found that finding a printer right now, because usually, like, whether it's Target, Walmart, Best Buy, whatever kind of, Staples, Office Max,
Yeah.
all those stores, they usually have like 10 or 15 models to choose from, but a lot of those, because of the, because of issues with trade in China and all that kind of stuff, like there's like 2 models available.
Oh my God.
And tens and lots of people are trying to buy printers because of the problems that they're, because of homeschooling and whatever else, or homeschooling or distance learning, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Where there's just, availability. Or if you are living in a district where the school district can't buy everybody a Chromebook, that, parents are going out and just trying to buy any computer that they can get their hands on, so computer repair shops are empty.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that.
Everything. Yeah, like it's been an issue in the area that I'm in.
Oh my God. It's like the new toilet paper shortage.
Yeah, no, it totally is. Be this is going to end. Cross your fingers, your toes, your eyes, and your nose, that this will end someday. But, I do feel like, we're going to get out of this, and we're like, what are we going to do with these 9 computers that we have in our house?
Yeah, I know, right? Another problem is like, how are kids going to behave when they're finally back in a classroom and they're used to like, I don't know, I almost feel like they're getting away with too much right now. Like, it's really easy to just not show up to a Zoom class and be like, oh, whoops, like technical difficulties. And then and they're like watching like YouTube instead. And like, I don't know, I just feel like they're developing really bad habits. I feel like there's not enough accountability.
Well, and part of that accountability falls on us as parents.
Of course.
But it's the age-old comparison that when you send your kids to another person's house, or you send them to school and you get feedback from your teacher, and your teacher or the other person, the other adult says, "Oh, your child was just an angel. They were so polite, and they cleaned up their dishes, and they swept the floor. We didn't even have to ask them. They just saw a mess and they cleaned it up." And you're like, "How come you can't do that at home?"
Exactly. So like the sort of like the feeling of being at home for kids is like they push boundaries more when they're at home.
Well, because they're comfortable,
Yeah.
because you're not just because you're mom,
Right?
and you're also there, mom or dad, and they know that they can go and get a hug from you, and you're the comforting adult, you're the stable presence in their life, and so they feel like they can push boundaries more with you.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So that
versus multiple adults, where you have a principal, be like, you always have that threat, quote unquote, the air quotes threat, from teachers, and be like, look, if we can't figure this out in the classroom right here, if we can't figure this out, we're going to send you to the principal's office. How do you do that at home?
Right.
Like what's that overarching figure of authority? Because you're 100% of the authority in the household as both parent and teacher. So what are the kinds of things that are happening? I mean, because you're saying that you don't even have a not a stay-at-home order, but are you guys doing? Is your state pretty much open now?
Yeah.
Like you have to go around and have a mask mandate or something like that, but everything's open?
Yeah, so we do have to wear masks, but I mean, restaurants are open. I don't even know what else is closed. I feel like restaurants and liquor stores basically closed, and like now they're open. People have been going back into the office. Like my brother works in an office. He's been going back. I do think a lot of offices are like making it sort of optional. And yeah, I mean, you can basically bars aren't open, which I think is a good choice.
Well, it just means that people are staying home with it, though. I mean,
Oh yeah,
so I guess you don't get as much
because of alcohol. Just because like it's such a like at least in a restaurant, you sit down, you're at your table, you're not sort of wandering around. Or like in a bar, if like people are drinking, they don't have their mask on because they're drinking, and then they're all talking close to each other and getting sloppy, and it's like indoors, and I don't know. I feel like it's probably best to not have them open right now, but yeah, restaurants are open. And you can basically do anything as long as you have a mask on.
what is it that you think, what's the impetus? Is it just coming from the teachers unions, where they're just saying we're not gonna have any in class interactions at all until these things are met? Because
yeah, it's actually a little unclear. Like, so all summer I had no idea what the reopening plan was going to be. It was like at the last minute they wanted us to vote on hybrid or virtual, not even a full day schedule.
mm-hmm.
And I voted for hybrid. I think most people did. And then they still went with a fully virtual schedule, and they said that they would reevaluate in October. And I was just talking with this. I was at like a backyard get together, and it was
socially distanced, of course.
It was socially distanced. It was all outside. But there was a doctor there, and I said, and he's an internist, and he dealt with a lot of COVID. He's at a hospital in the rough part of the city where I live, where they had a lot of cases. And he said, he was saying he thinks the kids should be in school, and that he believes it's really the teachers union. And I said, well, don't the schools kind of have to follow like whatever the Department of Health is saying, like whatever, like the schools have, like we have to meet certain sort of guidelines that have been written out by the Department of Health. And he was like, yeah, but they're pressured by the teachers unions, like basically say what the guidelines are. So like I don't have specifics necessarily on that, but that's a lot of people's opinion.
So as a parent, you're kind of feeling like you're in the dark a little bit?
Yeah, I really do feel like I'm in the dark as to why they're keeping the schools closed. Some people, I hear make the argument, well, we don't know what the long-term effects are. And it's like, well, what are you going to do? Close the schools down for 25 years? Like, at some point, you got to just accept that we're humans and we live in a world with viruses. I mean, and like, it's not like it's killing a lot of kids. So anyway.
Well, and like what some of the teachers that I know of, or some of the districts that are doing in our area, like they had, the district got together and said to teachers, okay, if you don't feel comfortable at all getting in front of people anymore, like, or if you meet certain criteria, like you have a compromised immune system and you have diabetes and you have CHF and COPD and you smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day and
right.
All of the things that make you susceptible to to the coronavirus, is that like, okay, well, maybe you're gonna manage the online portions. You're gonna be like an online school distance learning super user, and you're gonna be doing, you're gonna be managing, administrating that part. And then some of the younger teachers, because at least in my area, the average age of teachers, because they just had, I don't know how this happened, but it was like less than 5 years ago, there just seemed to be like this huge exodus of retiring teachers. And I can't remember what spurred that, but like the average age of our teachers is like 26.
Yeah.
And especially in our district, because, my kids are in elementary school, so most of them are very young.
Yeah, I would say the average age of the teachers where I am are pretty young, 20s and 30s. And then there's a few veteran teachers. And again, like I'm not unreasonable. I think if your kid is immunocompromised, or as a teacher, if you're elderly or immunocompromised, there obviously should be an option for you to stay online or stay at home, because we know that people who are immunocompromised are at greater risk of having a severe case.
Right.
Yeah. But
we kind of know now that it's like, okay, well, just because you, like, it's not 100% if you get it, you're going to die. Like, we have data to kind of say, okay, here are the risk factors. Here's how we're preventing this. Like my kids, I don't know how they enforce this all the time, but we have my kids are wearing masks all day in school. And they get mask breaks, so we had to give them like a bath mat.
Yeah.
And so they could, sit either, I can't remember if it's, well, they do it both ways, but they get like mask breaks out in the hallway where they go and sit on a sticker in the hallway with their bath mat, or they get to go outside for, however long. But like even recess is different now, because it's not like the free for all,
right?
Where everybody plays with everybody, because they still have to adhere to some kind of distancing and constant hand washing and all that kind of fun stuff.
Right.
So I mean there's some positive changes, I think, but and I feel like there's definitely a way to implement learning to if you can go to Walmart, you can go to the grocery store, which we've been able to do the whole time. Why can't you go to and mix with all kinds of different age people? Why is it that schools have taken such a restrictive approach to, the purpose of them being there?
Right. It sort of doesn't make any sense to me. And I kind of have thought about this. A lot of people compare COVID to the flu, but I think it's really more like RSV, where like kids get it and like it's just as cold for them, and even like healthy adults. But if like an elderly person is exposed to it, or even an infant, it could be devastating. And like we don't, and like elementary school kids and school kids in general, they get RSV all the time and bring it home. And like we don't
even know it.
Yeah, we're just not thinking about it. And like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know what the stats are exactly on that. Maybe different,
it's sometimes it's an apt comparison because they're both viruses, and so they spread like viruses, and so I don't think it's disingenuous to make on some level that there is a comparison between the two, but there's a lot of anyway. So let's take a break there. We've been going for about 15 minutes. So when we get back, let's talk about even if we don't find a solution, let's at least think about some ideas that might help alleviate or minimize some of the pain that we're experiencing now as our kids go back to school, or are at home all the time, or doing hybrid where they're kind of back and forth and parents are getting spread kind of thin. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go through all that.
Our sponsor for this segment is Bergman Grossman's Day-Old Countryside Open Air Fish Market. We're all strapped for cash, so why spend your hard-earned money on fresh fish when you can spend less money on a slightly older fish? Let's be honest. Is a day-old fish sitting in the sun in the geometric center of the United States really that much different from fresh fish that's sold at oceanside markets? Some of the fish might be slightly older than a day, but that just means it's discounted even more. Cook it over a campfire and you'll never be able to tell the difference between necrosis and good old campfire char. So go down to Birchman & Grossman's Day-Old Countryside Open Air Fish Market, right across from the Sunset Motel and RV Park in Belfouche. Mention the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast for a free basket of raw crustaceans. Take them fresh or ship them anywhere in the lower 48 via the U.S. Postal Service for their $8 special 6-day guaranteed delivery service. So stop down at Birchman Grossman's Day-Old Countryside Open Air Fish Markets in downtown Belfouche, or stop by for the grand opening of their second location,
Bertram and Grossman's 2-day-old Countryside Open Air Fish Market just off Highway 85 in Jolly Dump. Pasture parking and porta-johns are available for all paying customers. BYOTP or bring your own toilet paper. Bertram and Grossman's Day-Old Countryside Open Air Fish Market. If you think the name is a mouthful, wait till you try the fish. So welcome back. So how do we begin to find, if not solutions, if not 100% solutions, let's think through and discuss some of the ideas that, maybe we can help minimize some of the pain, alleviate some suffering of all of this going on. So like one of the things I suggested in this subject in my last podcast was about creating a classroom within the house. If there are multiple kids and if you're in school or, you're a parent who's working from home or, whatever the circumstances are, or just, you make a classroom, or even if it's just like the dining room is converted over and that's just, everybody has their computers set up, that's the classroom, wherever it is in your house where everybody, works. How did you do this, and how are you doing this now with again, so many different kids?
So originally I set up the dining room and I gave them all earbuds. I have a pretty big dining room table. And I told them, like, you're all going to sit at the dining room table with your earbuds on and do your work. But, like, somehow they've all wandered off into different parts of the house. And as long as they're not in bed, I kind of don't care. So, like, you can plan so much, but then things just sort of happen the way they happen.
Yeah.
For some reason, my kids hate earbuds. So they're like, luckily my house is big enough. I mean, I'm not in like a apartment, but someone's in the living room, someone's in the dining room, someone's in the kitchen, and like there was somebody like in the hallway, and like they were totally cool just sitting on the floor in the hallway. So I was like, this is so uncomfortable for everyone that if you want to be on the floor in the hallway while you're doing this, then I'm gonna let you do that.
Is that because I'm a very like I need space where like I need a dedicated space. Mm-hmm. and I love the fact that your kids are like in there poking you right now, like yeah. if that's not a great illustration if that's not a great illustration of what kind of the stuff is like going on. But I need a dedicated space. I need some place where it's like, okay, this is my space where I am going to do all of my work and I can kind of make the mess that I need to make, and I'm not messing with other functions within the house, as best you can. And I get, again, like the great example you brought up is like people who are in, small apartments with a family, like there's no extra room that you can make, and that you can carve out for yourself. So maybe it is just the dinner table or the kitchen island, or kind of whatever the space is that you can kind of make. You have to get creative. But,
yeah, that's for sure.
Do you think that are you kind of are you on the more chaotic side where like you like I had this friend who they were studying, and they had all their nursing books like on their lap. They had their computer on a TV tray. Their husband was like sitting next to them, with a video game, playing with another, playing on video games like with their kids and stuff like that, like on the couch next to them. Yeah. Eating pizza and Doritos, and there's like 4 Mountain Dew bottles and stuff like that. I'm like, I'd kill him. I would be like that's like, how do you retain anything in that environment? And some people are that way. I get it, but yeah. Like, how are you?
I'm definitely a little more on the chaotic side, and that's what my kids are used to. Which is probably why they've all spread out into different parts of the house, and they know I'm basically not going to make them go back to the dining room table. Okay. But That's why it's a challenge for people like me who are more on the chaotic side to have their kids doing school at home, because it does take a certain amount, obviously, of organization and like self-discipline that I don't necessarily have, and I've just learned to kind of live it, like live chaotically a little bit. I mean, like somehow it works for me. Like I have been in I just graduated my BSN program in June, and I'd been in
Congratulations.
school. Thank you. I mean, I had been in school for like 5 years. And like, I don't know, I got really good grades. I never failed anything. My kids get pretty good grades, and like that's just kind of how we live. We're a little bit more on the chaotic creative sort of side. But it is a challenge, and it does cause stress when you're not naturally like an organized kind of person and there's this much on your plate with everyone at home.
So if you are the type of person where you're a little bit more, an example I can think of just off the top of my head, like the people who could study in coffee shops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that at all. And maybe it's because they're, English majors or something like that. Like there's no way that I was going to be able to retain and study and focus on nursing subjects, for example,
Right.
while, the coffee shop environment. Like that's just not mine. That's just, not me. But if I'm at home with my kids and I thrive more in that chaos, do you think it would be beneficial to try to overcome that a little bit and try to exert a little bit of order, a little bit of organization, and say, okay, no, you're not going to just sit, for two reasons. I need to be able to monitor, your work while you're in school, and to give you some kind of structure that you can rely on, because kids for the most part, I think, thrive in an environment where they have some structure. Right. And the school normally provides that, right?
Yeah.
You were talking about the schedule and they need to go to this place at this time and this place at this time.
Yeah.
Is that something that, from where your perspective is and how things have been working for you or not working for you,
right.
whatever the case might be, like providing structure to the kids, do you think that would help, or is that something that's just kind of not possible, or like how would you think of that?
I'd say like however much structure you're able to provide right now is going to be helpful, and then I think being able to let go a little bit is helpful too, because so that you don't turn into like, it probably could be easy to turn into a control freak right now if you're the type of person that tends towards that. In some situations, I can be like that. So I think a good balance, and like that's probably different for each family. But I do
because
think
each family, I agree. Like each family has to kind of experiment to find out where their balance is. But yeah,
and then like you can just sort of, in some way, assess as you go along how your kids are doing. Although at the same time, I'm like, is this if your kids aren't doing well, is it because you're not doing things well at home, or is it because the education system sucks right now and like it sucks for everyone? And
everybody's trying to catch up. Everybody's trying to play catch up with how to do this. But I mean, I also feel like to empathize with your position is that if this was a problem that the healthcare system or your hospital system had to solve, and this has been an ongoing issue since February, if it wasn't fixed by September, I feel like people would have a right to be kind of up in arms, and there's some experimentation that the educational system in your district has to go through, because it's so far out of the norm. But at the same time, like if other industries or if other organizations had to make a similar changes, like restaurants, I don't know, I mean, they had to go from eating in to takeout in a week.
Right.
where everything, they had to have all that structure in place, and if it wasn't, they would have gone under. And yet the educational system can take 8 months, 6 months, 9 months to
Right.
figure this out. So I do empathize with you greatly about it.
Yeah.
One of the problems that I'm seeing with parents in general is that they're being pulled in so many directions, and again, I empathize with your situation where you have everything from a high schooler to elementary school, right?
3rd grade, yeah.
3rd grade. Oh my gosh, like and just trying to. I mean, there are plenty of adults who have focus issues and discipline issues when it comes to. Yeah, she's pointing to herself. Like focus issues and discipline issues, trying to keep them self-motivated to do the work that's in front of them. How much less do a 3rd grader have for discipline, or your 17-year-old?
Right.
If you have a high school, everything from high school senior down to 1st grade, and how do
Yeah.
you manage all of that when there's all that kind of stuff? So I feel like you can't be a work from home parent and somehow monitor your kids' schoolwork while also doing your own job, or if you're an overnight nurse like me, try to sleep a little bit and actually function, do a good job teaching, parenting, and work. So
Yeah.
how many hours are each of your kids actually doing work right now?
So they all have like synchronous Zoom classes in the morning for like 3 or 4 hours. They start at different times though because of their different, age ranges.
Mm-hmm.
And then it depends. They're supposed to have assignments to work on in the afternoon, and my kids are always like, "Oh, I did them during the Zoom class." Some of my kids will say that. My other kids are doing their assignments, and I'm like, I don't really know, and I don't really know how to check it until I get an email from a teacher saying they didn't do something, which I've already gotten, so like week 2. Your kid wasn't at a Zoom class. Your kid didn't turn this assignment in, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Sometimes I'm like, look, you get what you get. They're gonna do what they can do, and we're not gonna do it perfectly. And if they were in school, it's stuff that the teacher would be troubleshooting in real time with the kids and physical like proximity to them. And so now as parents, it's like we're stepping in to do that job as the teacher.
Yeah, you see that all the thrust of the responsibility falls back onto the parent. And again, we do have as parents a primary responsibility to be the primary educators of our kids.
Yes.
I feel, and partner with our teachers, because that's the thing. It has to be a partnership. So
yeah, I mean it always has been a partnership, parents and teachers, but it's like
it's very unbalanced right now.
It's very unbalanced right now, yeah. And I used to homeschool my kids. So at first I was like, all right, I got this. Like I used to homeschool, but I didn't work when I was homeschooling my kids, and it was very different. This is school at home. This isn't homeschooling. Homeschooling offers a lot more flexibility as long as you can put the full-time effort into creating a curriculum and whatnot.
So let's take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll kind of finish up and let's keep going with that discussion. But let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll kind of continue the discussion and then kind of finish up. Okay?
I've heard people say that too much of anything is not good for you, but I don't know about that. As many times as we've made food, and we've shared food, and we've made food, it just doesn't seem to me like it's enough. It's just not enough. It's just not enough, babe. My darling, I
Okay. I won't subject you to any more of my singing. If you go to foodiequeen.com, that's FOODIQUEEN.com, and connect with Michelle Gray and join her Facebook group. There are almost 28,000 members, and you can start to see why when you look through her multitude of recipe samples in the group. Members share their successes and reach out for help and support in this great community, led by the foodie queen herself, Michelle Gray. Listen to Season 4, Episode 7 to listen to our interview. Good luck, have fun, and join her group.
All right.
So welcome back. So let's continue the discussion again and kind of thinking through how to be a work from home parent and monitor your kids' schoolwork and kind of monitor what's going on, in their school life while also doing your own job.
That's why kid's on the ripstick right now.
But we were before the next break, we were talking about how much of what's being required for your kids to learn is falling on your shoulders as a parent. And just talking with a neighbor this morning, the guy's like, I graduated school 20 years ago, and like I don't even understand how they're teaching kids math, and the kid is telling their parents, if we do it that way, we're going to get it wrong, even if you come to the right answer, like because we're not doing it their way. How much of what kids are required to learn falling on your shoulders specifically, as a parent and now as a also full-time teacher.
Right. The older ones are a little more independent, and they don't like accept help from me very well, so that takes a little off my shoulders. But
they're teenagers,
they're teenagers, but I have to make sure they're actually doing their work, so that becomes an issue sometimes. And then like my youngest needs help with her reading, and I'll help her with that. The math, I'm like, you're on your own. Like, like you're gonna have to figure that one out on your own. I don't know. But sometimes what I've seen is like kids or anyone, they just need somebody to bounce their frustration off of when they're learning something new, and like, you're just maybe just listening to them kind of helps them work through whatever it is they're doing. So I think when we get into areas where we feel like we can't help, we can at least just listen, and that sometimes is really helpful for kids. There goes the ripstick again.
You did a poll on Instagram recently, didn't you?
Yes. I did. I asked people, like, did you at some point get so fed up with online school that you did your kids' schoolwork for them? And most people answered yes. It was like 88%. I refuse to do that, and I'd rather have my kids try and fail than. And I get it. I'm not blaming like any of those parents or thinking that they're bad parents. That's just the way I am. I'd rather my kids fail. And also, like, I feel like this isn't regular school. Like, this is like pandemic school that we've had to like all of a sudden change to, that no one was prepared for, and that everyone hates, essentially.
Well, and I think, I mean, the long-term consequences of that is if parents are doing that schoolwork for their kids, then they are they're artificially propping up the effectiveness of the online education of distance learning. So if,
Yes.
teachers and administrators look at this and go, well, geez, there's all, for whatever reason, this all looks really high, and this looks really good, and kids are getting it, and maybe this is something we can continue, or what we're doing is effective, when really it's not, because parents are going, well, I don't want my kid to fail school because I'm ineffective as a primary, as a technical teacher,
Right.
and the school is failing me, or the education system or my district is failing me, because they, for whatever reason, they weren't able to be fully prepared for the for this educational challenge that we're in. And I do feel for them too, because I mean, this is a big problem. This is so far out of the norm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think we are propping up kind of how much online school is doing for kids, because a lot of parents are just sort of like stepping in and doing too much for their kids. I probably tend to be, I don't do enough for them sometimes. Like maybe I'm a little too hard on like wanting them to be really independent. But that's just sort of like, I think it's the homeschooler in me. I really was like, self-education's the only education, man. You got to do it yourself. But obviously kids need guidance.
But there is, I think, like a great, like, I had to stop myself from, like, walking my kids to the bus stop and stuff like that, and I'm just bebopping. I'm giving them 10 or 15 feet of space, where they're just walking. And then I had to yell at my daughter because she was about to cross the street and she didn't look. And I go, how is it possible that you don't know, after 2.5 years of doing this, that you are supposed to stop at the sidewalk and look both ways before you cross the same sidewalk that we've been doing this for 2 years? Like, how is this possible? You don't remember. And I had to stop myself. And I said, I mean, even me, because I'm much more on the, you need to learn how to be independent, because dad can't be there all the time. But that's the problem, is that I've been there all the time, and they don't have to remember, because their dad is always there to say, look both ways before you cross the street. They don't have to remember. Why should they? Because we're there all the time. And so
Right.
I do believe in your philosophy, if you will, that they have to be self-accountable, and they have to learn how to be self-reliant, and they have to learn how to do that. Because, I mean, since we're talking about a nursing school podcast, you need to learn all those skills if you're going to be successful to be in nursing school. You need to learn how to be self-reliant and self-motivating, and to remember stuff on your own, because not everybody's going to be there to remind you all the time.
Yeah. I was listening to a previous episode of yours that you did on just the problem of schools, and
Thank
I
you.
remember I think you were specifically talking to people who were in nursing school, saying like, it feels wrong to put that first before your kids or your kids' education, but like, this is the basis on which your family is being supported.
Right. Yep.
And that is the exact sort of philosophy that I've been going by too, because I was in school. My last semester of my bachelor's program was during when the schools first shut down.
Yeah.
And like, I really did put that first, and I just was like, there's nothing else I can do. Like, we're in an imperfect situation, and you really do have to. Well, there's another skill that you need for nursing, is like assessing what's most important and doing that first, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, like, yeah, for anyone who's in school right now, and even just people working from home, that really does kind of have to come first. And it's not like your kids aren't going to get help from you at some point later on, but you have to provide for your family, and this is the basis.
Yeah, you have to prioritize. Like, I can't help you right now. I will help you because I'm your parent and I love you, but mom or dad has to keep this job in order to make sure that we can stay in the apartment, that we can stay in the house, that that mommy or dad finishes nursing school so they can go out and get that job. Because you failing out of nursing school, in that last semester, if you
Yeah.
had to prioritize your kids' education over yours, means that you are going to fail and have all that debt and not have the job at the end of it to kind of help alleviate that and support your life as a family.
Right. So essentially, you can't let this sort of completely crumble the basis on which your family is like resting on.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit, because I've been talking to a friend of mine who's a high school history and economics teacher, which seems, I mean, like he's a fascinating guy. And actually, I talked to him this morning to see if he would come on for another episode as a follow-up for our episode here.
Oh, cool.
I really appreciate his perspective, but the amount of time that they're doing work at home, like the kids are doing their homework at home and schoolwork at home, is nowhere near the number of hours that they're actually in school. And,
Right.
with so many of the after school activities reduced, it's putting parents, especially, those with younger kids, I think, in really difficult positions, because it's not like, it's different for your 17-year-old who can go home and make their way home and everything's okay. Like with elementary school teachers, or elementary school students rather,
Yeah.
they have to be supervised. You can't just leave your 6-year-olds, here's some snacks, kids,
Right.
I got to go to work,
Especially when you work 12-hour shifts.
yeah. I mean, and maybe it's, I think maybe there's 1% of people who would say it's totally fine for your kids to be awake and I'm in the basement sleeping or something like that while my kids are watching movies or something like that during the day. But I can't motivate them to do school and sleep at the same time, when they're young. So I think I think especially for parents with younger kids, it's pretty difficult. And at the same time, I'm a little bit jealous that you have an older child, because I've got two that are the same age, and so they can't kind of help police each other. whereas maybe your 17-year-old or your high school, I don't know how old they are, but your high schooler, can kind of be like, help herd the flock. So yeah, herd the flock a little bit and be like, no, you need to go sit down and you need to be able to do this, because yes, I'm the older sibling, and what did one of your kids say to be like, you're not the boss of me? Like,
yes, my 10-year-old was saying that to my high schooler, you're not the boss of me.
Like,
I think she was backing me up, like, hey, get out of mom's room, she's doing something important.
well, maybe not important, but at least,
Yeah.
I'm not going to prioritize. I'm not going to
something,
prioritize my
that
podcast over
to be somewhat quiet.
the care of your child.
No, she was fine. She just was bugging me.
So how are you managing? Again, I have two kids who are the same age, and therefore I don't have to manage a wide array of ages and abilities. And I also don't have that help from that, older kid, maybe mentoring the kids a little bit, the younger ones a little bit. How are you managing such a wide array of ages and abilities? Are you able to manage this?
I feel like I'm not managing, actually. I don't even know. I just sort of like take it day by day. And I've actually been home the last few weeks because I had a surgery a few weeks ago. It's been a little bit of a blessing in disguise. So I go back to work next week, and it's definitely going to add more stress to managing all of that. And I don't know. I feel like, again, I just take it day by day. And I think you have to have a little bit of giving in a little bit, like being like, okay, they're not going to do this perfectly.
Yeah. I talk about that all the time. Like, you have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself and them grace.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I don't even have an answer for that. It's just like, I take it day by day and pray and hope that the schools open up again. I have a terrible defeatist attitude. I'm like, I don't manage it, and the schools just need to open up.
So, okay, so let's think through some of the things that we've talked about in previous episodes, and kind of again, I don't think there's a solution. I just don't, and I don't think that I'm bringing a solution to the table. But there are ways I think that we can help minimize some of the pain, mitigate some of the discomfort that we're feeling, and so like provide structure, whether it's everybody's going to do it at the table, and yeah, I don't care if you don't like earbuds, like you're going to be here because I need to be able to monitor school and help make sure that you're doing things at the right time and not missing assignments, and herd the flock a little bit, put a lasso around them, and whether that's a dining room table or you get a desk in individual kids' rooms if they share a room, something like that. Provide structure so like a schedule. Do your kids like get up at normal times, so like to start their day, like they still get up, brush their teeth, get dressed at 7 a.m. and then kind of start their day? I think that's a really powerful. I'm afraid that it can sometimes seem a pointless gesture, and yet at the same time, I think it's probably one of the more important things that we can do as parents is to provide, to keep them in some kind of a routine.
No, definitely. And I feel like throughout the summer we lost that routine. People were getting up whenever, getting dressed at like 2:00 in the afternoon, and it was like a boost for my sort of mental health to be like, oh, we're actually in a routine again, even though it's not what I want it to be.
Right.
It is, I mean, as much as I hate the online school, I am glad we're in somewhat of a routine again.
Right.
And you're right. It is really important to have that sort of same routine every morning, just like at this, whatever, you probably have the same routine every night with your kids too. Mm-hmm. Before bedtime. It gets a little different as they get older, but.
And you can call me out on my BS. Like, you can tell, like, no, Michael, that is a freaking terrible idea. Like, no, don't you put that. God, how'd that line go in the movie? Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
No, I mean, no. Structure is good, and everyone has their own way of doing it and their own sort of like, I don't know. Everyone does it the way it needs to be done. I feel like for their own family, and like you sound like you probably need more structure than I do to feel okay with the way the day is going.
What about things like do your schools have, do your individual kids teachers have, like, okay, we have, because you talked about like Zoom meetings, so one kid has a Zoom meeting from this time to this time. Do you have that like on a schedule, like on a daily schedule, or a weekly schedule or something like that? It's like kid 1 gets the computer from 10 to 11, kid 2 gets it from 9 a.m. to whatever the times are. Like, do you have that kind of structure in place, or is it, are you relying on the kids to remember more?
When they were sharing the computer in the spring, it was more like that, and now that they each have their own, they kind of have their own schedule in their online platform that they use. I think that was like a fork falling on the floor, and they sort of just they basically go by that themselves. I don't know exactly what classes they're in at exactly what time, and it sort of changes from day to day, so it makes my ADHD brain sort of spin a little bit.
So even the teachers aren't really adhering to a structure like that?
Oh, no. The teachers are. It is structured. It's just that it's like there's A day and B day, and they have different specials on different days, so it's not like the same thing every day. So,
Oh my God.
do you know what I mean?
And there's
Yeah.
and you have 4 different, well, not just 4 different teachers, because I bet your like high schooler and
yeah.
your middle school have multiple teachers.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
It's literally impossible for me to sort of even get a bird's eye view of, I feel like. So I really do rely on my kids to kind of be responsible with it. And then when I get emails from the teachers, I would just remind them, hey, like like, you know, hey, like people are watching you. Just because I can't be on top of every single thing you're doing, like so I think that it does help, as annoying as it is. So that's basically how we structure our day.
Because I'm partly interested in the subject, and especially now because my prediction is that sometime in the next 8 weeks, like one of the kids is going to test positive or something, is going to get sick, and it's going to send this panic through the school. And
Yes.
and then we're all going to be in the same situation you are, and it's like I don't want to be caught with my pants down, so to speak. But like, all right, I need to have a plan. I need to have things in place to make sure that for me it's not a matter of if it happens, but when it happens. And I just don't want to be in that position without having some kind of an idea of what might happen. And I hope that for the listeners, that's maybe some of the value that this episode might bring too. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about?
Well, we could talk about the fact that when they open the schools up, there will be more cases. And like, do we shut down because of that? Or do we accept that as long as there isn't a major increase in fatalities and the hospitals aren't overwhelmed, that we sort of keep on living?
Well, I don't necessarily want to wait until there's a bunch of deaths before we make that decision, but again, the data shows that kids are probably going to be okay, even if they get it. But I don't necessarily want my kids to bring it home to me, even though I've already had it. I feel pretty confident that I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good.
Yeah.
But,
how long ago did you have it?
I had it at the end of May.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it pretty bad, or?
It wasn't bad for me. I never ran a temperature. I knew something was wrong when I went up half of my flight of stairs, and I was like completely I was like, oh my God. And, because I'm wearing one of them smart watches now, and we're like, oh my God, my heart rate's at like 145, from a half a flight of stairs. And I was like, okay, I think something's wrong. And so, went in, got tested and all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, never ran a temp. I'd had the flu twice before in my life, which was way worse. And, it took me 14 days total to recover, but I didn't feel like it was that bad. And by and large, the people that I know of who've had it have similar experiences, Most of the nurses that got it, in my department had very similar symptoms. Some of them had temperatures, some of them didn't. But I think the whole flatten the curve thing for me that's how we don't overwhelm the system. We don't want to overwhelm the hospital system.
Yeah.
But projected out a year, the same number of people are going to get it no matter what. So I kind of feel like, okay, well, if we're all going to get it, let's just get it and get it over with. And Sweden are, some of the countries in Scandinavia, even though they're obviously different from us, and smaller. I like that's kind of the route that they went, and they really haven't suffered a lot of consequences. And there's a lot of other examples where, they opened the economy, or they opened up their society and their culture a little bit too soon, and before we had a lot of data and other things in place, and they suffer the consequences for it. But I don't know, I still feel like there's a balance to be had here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think if they open the schools up that the kids should be wearing masks. I mean, that seems to be like a point of contention with some people, but At first, I remember when they were sort of mandating the masks, and I was obviously going to comply, but I was, from a nursing healthcare perspective, I was like, has everything we've learned about infection control gone out the window? You only wear the mask once, you throw it out, you don't touch it, you only wear it in the sick patient's room.
Yep.
You know, like I was such a purist about it, but I've kind of come around to the whole idea of like, this is harm reduction. And so it's not going to totally protect you from COVID, but from what we're seeing, it can lessen the viral load, and then you have like a milder case, and then that's kind of like having an inoculation. So,
Well, I think because I've got friends and family members that are just like, I hate wearing the mask all the time, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything to protect me. It says, well, yeah, that's right. The mask that you're wearing doesn't protect you, because you breathing through mesh, the size of the virus is gonna zip right through that, like it's heading down a wind tunnel or something. I don't know, but other people wearing masks, I think, does have some benefit. So every time that Grandma Phyllis sneezes into her mask and stuff like that at the nursing home, maybe she's not going to spread it to Gladys, George, and Walter at the same time.
I think it definitely helps, even if it's not sort of as pure of like, whatever. When you learn about sort of infection control in nursing school, it's just sort of like, wait a minute, this isn't how it works. But
yeah.
But
I love the fact that there's so many people who are wearing the cloth masks, and it's very evident that like they've never washed them at all, and it's just like,
yes.
and so
Totally.
my kids are wearing masks, and it's like they wear it for a whole day, and then which just seems completely inadequate as far as like cleanliness and stuff like that goes. Like, so this kid wears, and of course my son is a rough and tumble boy, and my daughter's a pretty tough girl, and and so they're out, when they go outside and play, they're running and they're sweating and they're being tough and they're getting dirty and all that kind of stuff, and they wear one mask all day long.
Yeah.
And then I would wash it, because I've got like 20 of them for each of them, so
Right.
they're constantly getting washed and rotating through, and even that seems completely, I mean, it's almost laughable. I mean, it is almost laughable. Be like, all right, so, yeah, I mean, if they were exposed to it, they're wearing the same mask, and it's just sitting in their mask all day anyway. So, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I accidentally put my son's mask on the other day. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
And he had it in his pocket, like, while playing football. And I didn't put it on until, like, I carried it out to the car with me, and then I went to go into the store, and I was like, oh my God, this isn't my mask.
Like, I can tell you didn't brush your teeth when the last time you wore this thing.
Yeah, right. He was sweating all over it.
So.
Yeah, other issues to be had, I suppose, in that department.
Well, it was fun talking to you. I appreciate you coming out and spending a little bit of time with me. I really do appreciate your perspective. Again, this is Ratchet Mom Ratchet Mom RN on Instagram. That's Ratchet RACH
RATCH.
Yeah, there we go.
Think.
Oh, wait a minute.
Mom
Okay, I've totally screwed this up. All right, so what's your? Let's just do it. Let's do it the correct way.
Okay.
Your Instagram feed is RATCHET mom_RN at Instagram.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so go and follow her. What brought me to her is like she had some really great memes going, and I saw a couple of them, followed her, and I was like, holy cow, this is exactly how I'm feeling right now. And it was just your memes are spot on and really funny, and very creative and original, and one thing I appreciate more than anything else is originality, instead of just sending the same crap around all the time. But thanks for coming on. I hope
Thanks
we
for
can
having me.
talk again, and listen to the next episode. I'm going to try to get one of the teachers, one of my teacher friends on and kind of talk through this too, so we can kind of,
That'll be great.
figure this out. Because
you should ask him what he thinks of all my teacher hating memes.
I'll direct him right there.
Yeah.
But I think because again, like, this isn't just for if you don't have kids. I think there's some value in this because if you're in nursing school, you're going to have to go through this. You're going to have to self-motivate. You're going to have to You're going to be studying for the NCLEX. You're going to be, even once you're beyond that, like I had to study for my TNCC. I'm studying for my CEN right now. Like, it's a lot of self-motivating. It's a lot of, self-discipline. It's a lot of sitting down and doing the work. And how do you do that in the absence of structure of a school? Because you're going to have to figure that out. And if you're in nursing school right now, and again, you don't have kids, you're on the student side of this. How do you do this with the lack of structure? So
right.
So again, like I think a lot of what you're doing right now is very poignant and useful, and I'm so grateful to you for coming on. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Are you tired of the same old badge reel? Do you have to wear the same scrub color as everyone else? Are your undershirts boring and kinda stinky after wearing your lucky shirt through 5 in a row 12s? You can wear your personality in other ways. Go to badgeladybynerdwear.com and check out her massive selection. Tell her you're a Real Talk School of Nursing podcast listener and use the promo code REALTALK20 at checkout for 20% off your order. Expect 2 to 3 weeks for custom orders and a few days depending on her actual job schedule, because she's a real nurse, to get your badges made and shipped. I know you'll treat her like your best friend at clinicals, so go to badgeladybynerdwear.com and order the coolest custom and original badge reels out there. Go to badgeladybynerdwear.com and use the promo code REALTALK20 for 20% off your order. That's badgeladybynerdwear.com and use the promo code REALTALK20 for 20% off your order. This Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is a Real Talk production. This podcast is dedicated to our brothers and sisters on the front lines of this COVID-19 situation.
Sic semper tyrannis, facta non verba.
Good night, Steve Cannon. Wherever you are. Annyeong kasayo. Now you go home. Thanks for listening. You can support the show directly on our Patreon account at www.patreon.com/realtalknursing and gain benefits such as early content, shoutouts, and special swag. Write into the show at realtalknursing@gmail.com or use Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at realtalknursing. Thank you for supporting our friends, affiliates, and sponsors and following us all on social media. More listeners, likes, and followers means more and better shows. Make sure to share the episode with classmates and give a hand up to those who are coming behind us. Don't forget to reach out and tell us if you have any announcements or special shoutouts to friends, classmates, or colleagues. If you like the show, the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is available everywhere, so go to wherever you download podcasts, subscribe, rate us, review us, write into the show, and smash that subscribe button. Remember to leave only 5-star reviews, because that's the only ratings that count to get us noticed by more nursing students. We want you to be part of this crazy nursing school journey. The Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is a holy moly, I can't believe you're still listening to this podcast.